Let's talk about AEW Dynamite. It was on at the same time as NXT. Um, I have to say, I watched both shows. I didn't watch anything intently, but I watched enough to be able to say whether I liked the show or not. In AEW Dynamite, I did not like the show. I almost never do. Um, on paper, I think it was probably a more interesting show. But ultimately, they're still featuring a bunch of people I don't care about. Now, I was in an interesting place at the very beginning of the show because while AEW had Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Syndicate in the ring, NXT had Jada Parker in the ring. And so I was sitting there sweating like, okay, which one of these should I watch? And then I realized, like, Mongo, you are a huge fan of Bobby Lashley. I said, yes, sir, I am. And I said, well, but you're also a heterosexual. I said, well, yes, sir, I am. So I watched Jada Parker instead. But I had MVP in my ear. I put the earphones on so I could hear MVP's promo. And basically, it runs down to their goal is to enrich and uplift young wrestlers. They wanted to uplift Swerve Strickland, but Swerve didn't want that, so they had to beat him up. So Swerve came out there, but he was held back by a bunch of security guys. He had a chain. I looked at the screen long enough to see that he had some kind of chain around his fist. I was like, that's weird. Then he called out Bobby Lashley for Full Gear. MVP accepted on his behalf, and that was that. So looking at, you know what's so weird about this? As much as I love these guys, when you look at Lashley and Shelton in suits, they look about the same size. But then when Lashley takes his suit off, he looks like he doubles in size. Like this, it's almost like the suit is restraining how massive he is. Because he didn't look that much bigger than Shelton when they were standing there in front of the camera. I really look forward to this. This was great. I wish these guys had showed up more than once. They did show up briefly with Ricochet to wish him luck, but they didn't really do much else going forward. The first match ended it in chaos as Claudio and Pac, aka the Death Riders, because they ride death, got disqualified against Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. I was not interested in this. And seeing that it ended in disqualification, I really was not interested. Marina Shafir kicked the referee. Moxley attacked Orange Cassidy, tried to choke him out. A bunch of jabronis came out and broke everything up, and Moxley's team fled. Later, Wheeler Yuta was with Moxley, and Moxley says that Orange Cassidy is not owed a damn thing by Wheeler Yuta because money does not equal loyalty. And sure, Wheeler Yuta may have slept on Orange Cassidy's couch. Absolutely. He let him shower in his bathroom. That doesn't mean that y'all friends. I'm like, what? What does it mean then? Then he says that Darby is a disappointment. Well, we can't all be stars. Jericho, Brian Keith, Big Cass lose to Mark Briscoe, Carl O'Reilly, I'm so sorry, and Tomohiro the Rutabaga. Look, I saw a clip of Tomohiro Ishii on Collision defeating Josh Woods, and that triggered the shit out of me because I remember when I used to watch Ring of Honor during the pandemic. I was a big fan of Josh Woods. He's a big dude. He's got NCAA credibility. He is somebody you could easily be pushing. And he's losing matches to this human potato. This is so bad. And this was just a garbage match. They was crashing through tables and a bunch of other stuff. Big Cass looked massive. He was cut to shreds. He chokeslammed, I think it was, Mark Briscoe through a table or something like that. He ended up falling also through another table. It was a bunch of chaos. Mark Briscoe, I believe, won the match for his team. Big whoop. It is what it is. I can't believe this conglomeration, if you want to even put it. I put it in quotations all the time. If this thing even means anything, I don't get it. I heard that there's still some talk that ROH may actually get on TV. They might actually get on True TV. And that's why Jericho is the champion, is so that they can launch it on True TV. Are Warner Brothers really stupid? Do you think Jericho's going to be the champion the entire time? Because I can almost guarantee you, shortly after Jericho gets the TV deal, he's losing the belt. Because once the contract is signed, you're locked in, right? I wouldn't make that decision. I wouldn't make that decision because you're going to end up with fucking Brian Cage or something like that as the champion, and you're going to get like 100,000 people watching the show. I mean, it might be good for Ring of Honor. It's going to be terrible for True TV. Moving on. Adam Cole defeats Malachi Black. This was interesting because between two guys who are pretty much washed. You know, there's not much there. There was a time where this would have been the main event of the show. And that's the sad part. This was the third match on the show. But there was a time where this would have been the main event. And it would have been interesting. And it would have been fun. And it would have been great. If you remember in the good old days of NXT, this is not the good old days of NXT. And it wasn't that long ago that these two guys were two of the best wrestlers in the world. Now they both look sick and old. I don't understand why. The match wasn't bad, though. I didn't like the finish. Malachi Black essentially just surrendered. And he got super kicked, I think, 200 or 300 times. Then he laid down. He just sat up and basically dared Adam Cole to hit him with the knee strike. And then he did. And then he pinned him. And I was like, oh, that was anticlimactic. I don't understand why they have to do the theatrics at the end. Why not do something exciting? Rather than Malachi Black basically walking himself to the gallows. Afterwards, Malachi Black was going to shake Adam Cole's hand, but instead he grabbed him in a hug. After the match, Adam Cole said that Malachi Black was one of the best he's ever faced. The crowd was incredibly excited for him. And it looked like they were writing Malachi Black off TV. That's what it looked like. And a lot of people picked up on that on the internet. They're like, is this guy done? And I see some people saying, no, he's still going to be around. His contract isn't up yet. He's not leaving. He's not retiring. Nothing's happening. But looking at this did not seem like he's going to be back next week. This did not say he's going to be back anytime soon. This looks like this was a farewell. If it was a farewell, I think he did as good as he could do. I certainly think that he could probably put forth more effort, but I don't think he was intentionally sandbagging the match. I think that he's just a little bit older, and both him and Adam can't go the way that they used to go, and they had a match as good as they could have it, you know? But it wasn't the NXT classic that it was in the past. And I think I liked their first match, the match that they had in NXT. I believe I actually liked that. I don't remember when it was, but I remember liking these guys working together. And it was okay here too. It wasn't bad. It was worth watching, actually. Worth watching more than once, I would say. After the match, Adam Cole counted up his wins and says that Roderick Strong still has to win 3 matches. And he says, everybody's been asking what happens if both him and Roddy both win 3 matches. And then Adam Cole says, well, then it'll be a triple threat match. And I'm like, why would you guys want to fight each other just to fight MJF? It's clear that they're not going to let that happen, though, right? It's pretty clear. So we get a video from MJF. He's making a phone call. He says he wants somebody to handle the Adam Cole problem. He's talking to Don Callis. At least we find that out later. And Don Callis, takes the money that is offered with the request and ended up with Konosuke Takeshita. Let's talk about that. So Takeshita is going to be the third opponent for Adam Cole. Takeshita is a champion. Takeshita also was pinned in the main event of this show. Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita were defeated by Ricochet and Will Hobbs and Powerhouse Hobbs. Y'all know my energy level went through the roof when Powerhouse Hobbs came out. What a specimen. that man is. We need to get him as close to MVP as possible. I wouldn't put him in the group. I don't think he fits that Hurt Syndicate group. I think he fits as an antagonist to them, or a protagonist to them as a babyface. Because I think if you put him and Lashley on the same side, it's not realistic that anybody will beat them. But if you want to put him and Lashley against each other, oh, yeah, buddy, that's big meaty man slapping meat right there. I'm all for it. I'm all for that. So, Powerhouse Hobbs was the opponent. He looked good here. He's been gone for 6 months. I really liked that he was introduced in the main event. That was great. Ricochet did a bunch of flips. That's kind of what he does. They told some story about Powerhouse Hobbs' contract with Don Callis expiring, which doesn't seem like a very Don Callis thing to occur. Like, I never heard of Don Callis literally having contracts that could expire. Like, his contracts just feel like they're indentured servitude. Like, you just, well, except unless you're Will Ospreay, then he lets you out of it just willy-nilly. But, okay, you don't want, you want to keep Kyle Fletcher, but you're going to let Powerhouse Hobbs go. So now, you know nothing about talent, sir. I got to tell you. The worst manager ever. Hobbs busts out a avalanche power slam on Satoshi Takeshita. I'm never going to get this guy's name right. Takeshita. Also, Takeshita stuffed a diving hurricanrana by Ricochet. That was a pretty crazy spot. But Takeshita ultimately ends up getting pinned by Ricochet, which it makes sense to set up probably Ricochet Takeshita at Full Gear, and more than likely some kind of championship match going forward. So if that was the point, okay. Still, you know, Kyle Fletcher is right there and nobody cares about him. Anyway, it ended up being a brawl afterwards as that slovenly made Mark Davis. This guy who, oh my God. Did you see him? Just tell me you saw him. There is nothing I can say that will justify how sloppy this man is. I would disrespect guys at Kroger to say that he's dressed like a guy at Kroger. It would be a disrespect to say he's dressed like some, guy watching his son at Little League. It's a disrespect to say that he looked like he hasn't showered. He does not look like a professional wrestler, and we say that about a lot of people on AEW, and it's literally the case for a lot of people on AEW. This guy does not look like a professional wrestler. He doesn't look like a professional anything. He looks like he does not have a job, a residence, or legal tender. He looks like a fucking bum. A bum. That's what he looks like. And he jogs out here after the main event to get shoved around by Kyle Fletcher. This led to Lance Archer coming out there. And I was like, man, they're just bringing out all the stars. Mark Davis, Lance Archer. Ugh. Eventually, Will Ospreay did get out there. And they chased off Fletcher and Takeshita and Lance Archer and all those guys to end the show. And it was not a good ending to the show. I hate to break it to him, but that wasn't what you needed. That was not what you needed, sir. That sucked. All of this was very bad, by the way. Takeshita losing. It was fine to set up the Ricochet match that's probably going to happen. But him losing, knowing that he has to wrestle Adam Cole next week and probably has to lose that match too, seems unfair. This is a very talented young man. He should be put in good positions. If you're going to have Adam Cole, well, for starters, let's ask the question. Adam Cole fought 2 of the 3 members of the House of Black. Why is he not fighting Brody King? Isn't that the next natural match for Adam Cole is to wrestle Brody, unless Brody King is injured, which he might be. Or he might be just sleeping on the job. Who knows? Who cares? But now we're skipping from one stable to another, and he's fighting Takeshita. All right, he needs to beat somebody. Why wasn't it Lance Archer? You know? It just seems, unless he's not going to win, maybe Adam Cole's not going to win. That would be a dumbass story, but maybe he's not going to win. But that would be stupid. Jay White is attacked by Hangman Page. He's going to get his ankle snapped when Juice Robinson saved him. The brawl then continued. Jay White had words for Hangman, but I don't care. Juice Robinson was present. He was on my screen. And I was like, I would rather watch you torture a cat than watch Juice Robinson. I just refuse. So out of protest, I changed the channel back to NXT. I kind of missed this part, but didn't care to go back to see what happened. I saw Chris Statlander, and then all of a sudden she was strangling Mercedes, and it sounded like Mercedes tried to run Chris Statlander over with her car. Like, maybe I should look that up before. Yeah, because this sounds like that's important. So she did try to run her over with the car. And that was a wide body Escalade too. That's a badass vehicle. There was no way she was going to survive that one. I tell you, she was going to wipe her off the face of the earth. Oh man, that's humorous. It leads to a brawl afterwards. Oh my goodness. Hey, I like that. That's great. It's been a while since people tried to run each other over with cars in pro wrestling. That's amazing. I don't know why this feud justifies running somebody over with a car, but it's not too bad. Mercedes yelled at Camille that she can't do anything right. And then Statlander slammed Mercedes on the hood of the car. It made no damage to the car whatsoever because Mercedes is a featherweight. So they set up Mercedes versus Chris Statlander at Full Gear. Okay, that's actually going to be probably the most interesting match on the show for me. I'm very interested in that. So Christian Cage, he had a segment here where he talked about how much he loves Kip Sabian because Kip Sabian protected him or alerted him to the Death Riders who were going to cost him his championship opportunity, and then said that Kip Sabian has done more for him than any of his other sons, which of course was shade, as the hair hat hood rat said about towards Nick Wayne, who was just a kid. He's just a little guy. Then Hook appeared, and Christian says that he wished that Taz was dead because Hook has the opportunity to be something great like him, or he could be an announcer like his father, because Taz can never make it in the big leagues. That was one of the Christian's things, that Taz can never make it in the big leagues. All these things are true, by the way. The moment Taz got out of that bingo hall, he looked tiny, and then he injured his neck, and then he just immediately went on over to the announce desk, which was the right thing to do. I mean, he was incredibly tiny. There was nothing else he was going to be able to get away with. I mean, he's literally like 5'6", 5'7", or something like that. Very sensitive about that too. Very orange. Then we had Penelope Ford versus Jamie Hayter, and Jamie Hayter won that match. Did I watch it? Kinda. Not much. It was okay. I didn't see enough of it to really say anything about it. I mean, I don't care. I'm not invested. So when you look at AEW, they did some good things here. The Hurt Syndicate stuff was good. Powerhouse Hobbs being back is good. Claudio murdering Darby Allin by throwing him against the ring post was amazing. Adam Cole versus Malachi Black was okay. The Moxley stuff is moving at a snail's pace now. I don't get it. The Christian stuff I could do without, because I don't need Kip Sabian on my television at all. I don't need really Hangman or Juice Robinson on my TV at all. MJF is not doing anything. He's just basically, like Rock used to be there by satellite. That's how MJF is now. MJF via satellite, via videotape. Very poorly shot and very poorly produced videotapes as well. So an AEW fan may like this show, but somebody like me, I'm not really all that interested. I don't feel like it really furthered the main story of the show. The show was obviously better without the Young Bucks being on it, but it's just Dynamite. Now before we wrap this thing up, I did skip news and notes, but I do want to mention that Kenny Omega actually made his return to New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he got into it with some dweeb by the name of Gabriel Kidd. Now, this Gabriel Kidd guy, apparently his entire gimmick is just being white in Japan, which is basically you're mediocre as fuck and you curse a lot. That's pretty much how it works. And if you curse a lot in Japan, all of a sudden you get over, because the Japanese are like children. And if you say bad words, they giggle. You're like, oh, he said fuck. It's like you guys have been hearing the word fuck from people in the United States for, I don't know, 40 years now. I mean, all kinds of Americans have been coming over there saying the word fuck and the word ass and all this kind of stuff. And you guys are like, oh my God, they're cursing and using bad words. They treat all the Japanese like children. In any event, Kenny Omega has some kind of backstage brawl with this guy that's going to lead to a match. So Kenny Omega's first match back wrestling will be at a New Japan show. Now, if I remember correctly, this is a joint show between AEW and New Japan. I'm looking it up now. And I believe that's what it is. It's a joint show. So, oh my God, you're trying to sell Full Gear. I mean, look, I guess I don't know when this Russell Dynasty thing is. I have no idea. But you're going to let him take bumps for Gabriel Kidd? Who the fuck is Gabriel Kidd? Nobody knows who this guy. Look, whatever. I guess the Japanese just want to watch Kenny Omega, which I guess at that point you could put him in there with the Brooklyn Brawler. It doesn't matter, right? But a lot of what got the headlines is Omega making a comment about CM Punk. And it's an interesting comment. He says, quote, "I immediately remembered the incident that happened in AEW. I won't say his name, but I thought that Gabe was unfit to be a professional. Just like that guy. He said a lot of bad things about AEW, but that's irrelevant now. For now, I can't trust Gabe." That guy is Phillip Brooks, aka CM Punk. He's unprofessional. You guys went into his locker room, but I hate relitigating this. I wish these people would get over it. Please get over it. But Kenny Omega, after having a football field of his intestines removed and being out of action for 2 years, is going to waste bumps on Gabriel Kidd. That's what it's going to be. Gabriel Kidd. Oh, so the show was January the 5th. Wrestle Dynasty. I thought the Wrestle Kingdom shows were two nights. Because usually Wrestle Kingdom is January 4th and January 5th. Remember, that's where WWE stole their idea for WrestleMania being 2 nights. They stole it from Wrestle Kingdom. So I guess Wrestle Kingdom is going to convert their second night into a joint show. Or both nights joint shows. Or do I not know what I'm talking about? I'm pretty sure somebody's going to correct me here. You know what? I don't care. Be a know-it-all and put it into the comment section. I'm not looking it up. I will just say this. Tony Khan is a very, very kind man. I don't know if he's a communist or not. But the idea that he's paying Kenny Omega all this money, has been paying him all this time, and then he's going to say, your first match back is not going to be on an AEW show, but it's going to be on a joint show. And it's not going to be against somebody who fucking matters. It's going to be against, checks notes, Gabriel Kidd. Somebody who has never been on an AEW television program. You're basically running a charity. All right. Tony Khan's running a charity. All right. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
No one does it better.